Some of them went anyway. They knew. So, as Paul mentioned, I'm going to talk to you today. I don't know where this is going to go. I had this big fancy binder and a presentation and all this stuff, and I tried to get through it last night, and I realized it's like I only need 3 hours to get through what I prepared. So I'm jettisoning all of that, and I'm just going to flip-flop around. So if this seems disjointed, it's because it is. But I needed to get what I had last up front, so that you guys know what's going on. So, as Paul mentioned, we're going to be doing something different in the coming year. This is Via Trita Homeschool Academy. I don't even like using the word academy. It wasn't my choice, but you got to call it something, right? I would have got like Via Trita Homeschool Circus, a carnival, traveling sideshow, something like that. At any rate, they went with academy. So what does that mean? The key is homeschool. The key is homeschool. So I have tried. I've taught at every level, college, high school, grade school, more years than I care to count. I never intended to do this. You've probably heard me say this before. When I first became a Christian, I went to my church, and they're like, oh, fresh blood, we're going to put you in Sunday school. And I said, absolutely not. I will never read my lips, ever work with children. Okay? And God said, here, hold my tea. So I never intended to, but that's been the course of my life. God doesn't call the prepared, he prepares the called. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been trying to do it. Didn't realize that I was trying to do the wrong thing. A lot of time, a lot of effort. Went and got a master's degree in education, curriculum and instruction. And this was back in the 90s. I forget exactly the year. It's kind of a blur. All of my professors at that time at Montana State University in Bozeman, all of them were openly Marxist. You think it's gotten better? I don't think so. So, at any rate, I put a lot of time and effort into trying to make the school thing work. Here's my conclusion after all that time. I can't make it work. I can't make it do the thing that I want to do, which is to train up a child in the way they should go. I can't make that do that. I can't. And this homeschool academy, this homeschool co-op is called Via Trita. It's the first half of a Latin phrase, Via Trita, Via Tuta. The well-worn way is the safe way. So we're going to do the well-worn way. And why is it the well-worn way? Well, what we know as school is a relatively new invention. It's not that old. It hadn't been around that long. The well-worn way is the homeschool way. That's the way that Western civilization was built. And in case you haven't noticed, Western civilization is under attack. I'll get into that a little bit later. But first I want to tell you what we're going to do. We're switching. I'm part of a homeschool co-op, a newly formed homeschool co-op that's going to meet here 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're going to offer classes for junior high and high school students. If a parent, homeschooling parent, first of all, the parents are 100% in control. That's different. You can't farm it out to me anymore, okay? I'm not in control of that. That's you. You brought them into this world. You're going to have to answer to God for it, okay? Not me. You can't farm it off and say, well, I gave it to Mr. Morand and he dropped the ball, okay? That's not going to fly. It didn't work for me. I brought one in. I had to raise her up, okay? and I'm the one that's going to have to give an account. So are you. So you can't do that anymore. So the parent needs to be in charge. The parent is the one that needs to decide the way the child should go. The parent needs to be the one that makes the choices. The parent is the one. If a child's going to grow up and be successful, they have to have self-discipline. They don't come by that naturally. They have to be disciplined until the point where they can take it on themselves, and then you pull back and let them have more, until, guess what? They're running on their own. That's the way it works. That's the way it's always worked. That's the only way it can work. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you want to discipline your child, or do you want somebody else to do it? That's right. You want to do that. You're the only one who can, as a matter of fact. So, society can discipline them. We have a place for that. Perhaps you've been on a tour over there by Deer Lodge. You know, they have a place where they impose discipline on adults that can't do it themselves, okay? You don't want to do that. So, we're going to have this homeschool co-op. And why is it a co-op? Why isn't it hosted at Mountain Family? Why? It's going to be hosted here. We're supporting it, but it doesn't belong to us, okay? There's a couple of reasons for that, but the key one is that it needs to grow. It needs to grow, and it needs to not be limited by the space here. The goal here is to build a homeschool resource center. And I don't know if you've heard about the one out in Vancouver, Washington, but it is amazing. It's a huge campus. They're going to have kindergarten all the way through college. They've got this great big facility where they offer all different kinds of classes. If you want to learn ballet, you can take a class there. If you want to learn German, you can take a class there. If you want to learn calculus, you can take a class there. If you want to learn whatever, they've got somebody that'll teach it, and you can go in there and your kids can take that class. That way, they can follow their interests. They can grow up in the way they should go. You cannot do that in a school without millions and millions of dollars, okay? This is why high schools look the way they do. They have a teacher for every subject. Matter of fact, they have multiple teachers for every subject. A lot of them. They have a whole English department, a math department, a science department that has people that have a degree and experience in just that one subject to teach that at the junior high and the high school level. That's what it takes. That's what it takes. As they're getting up into that, you need to give them a little more than they can get out of a magazine, right? And so you got to have somebody that's a subject matter expert, and you got to have facilities, and you got to have that. Well, we're trying to build a church over here. We don't have millions and millions of dollars to pour into a school, okay? And I would argue you don't want that anyway. You don't want that anyway. The problem with school is the model, not the curriculum, not the indoctrination, not all the stuff that goes on. The problem is the model. You can't train an individual in a herd. Public school, private schools that are trying to follow the public school model, they're trying to herd 20 to 30 kids. You can't give them much individual attention. You're trying to herd them. Maybe you can pick out one or two that you can give attention. But you know what usually happens is the one or two that get all the attention are the problem children. My daughter went to kindergarten at a public school. We tried it for 1 year. And her teacher had 20 students, and she spent 90% of her time on one child who was a problem child, who needed to be in a completely different environment. And that teacher at the end of the year apologized to us for spending all of her time on that one child. And I'm like, well, why didn't the principal do something about it? Unacceptable. Homeschooling, on the other hand, you know that child better than anyone. You can deal with them better than anyone. You don't need to teach them so much at the beginning as you just need to feed them. They're learning machines, man. All you got to do is just put good food in front of them, and they'll chomp, 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 chomp. And they'll ask you all the time their favorite question. Why? 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 Okay, it's like, why? Here's a book. You know, the answer's in this book. Just read the book and you'll know the why. You don't it's not that hard. It's not that hard. When they get a little older, it's a little more difficult. Who wants to try to teach calculus, right? Not a lot of parents will raise their hand. Yeah. Okay, there's a few crazy people that'll say, yeah, okay. When you get into math, it's a little more difficult, right? I have 2 math jokes. One of them is this. God created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. On the 7th day, he rested. And on the 8th day, the devil put the alphabet into the math. The other one is that 4 out of 3 people have trouble with fractions. So there you've heard my 2 math jokes. Anyway, there's a math teacher. There's a teacher that's going to do science and history, geography. I'm going to teach biblical worldview, and I'm going to teach writing, and along with the writing, probably grammar and spelling and reading comprehension and all that, because that kind of all goes together. That's the number one thing that I get asked to teach. Parents is like, teach my kid how to write. And they don't ask me to teach math because I don't, I can do it up to a certain point, but beyond that point, it's like, no, that's the devil's stuff. Leave me out of it. So, any rate, so if they want to take one class, they take one class, $250 a semester for that one class. If they wanted to learn writing for one semester, for the whole first half of the year, I will teach them for $250. If they want to take all the classes, they want them there for the whole day on those 3 days, it's $250 a month. That is nothing. That's next to nothing. Now, it seems like a lot of money when it's coming out of your wallet, but compared to some of these other schools, they're private schools, you can't even believe how much it is. $750 to $1,000 a month. And then they want you to do a bunch of work and volunteer and all that. We're just going to teach a class. We're going to teach the classes. I'm not even assigning a grade or credit or nothing. I will teach, I will make the assignment, I will grade the assignment, I will hand it back with the points on it, how many points out of how many points, and you decide what the grade is. If you want them to do more, guess what? They're going to be doing more. If you're happy with that, guess what? It's up to you. I don't care. I'm just trying to teach them the how. You decide the value of it. We're doing that 3 days a week. Then we're, hopefully this is going to grow. I think it's already going to grow. I thought we'd have maybe 10 or so. We're already sitting at 15 to 18 confirmed. We haven't even let the word out yet. Once the word gets out, I think it's going to be, we're going to have to say, no more. Because we're limited by space. So hopefully next year, a couple of co-ops will get together and we'll have to have a bigger facility, right? And eventually we'll have multiple campuses, right? When this one comes online, some of the classes will be taught there, some of the classes will be taught over there, some over there, and so on and so on. This place out in Vancouver, they have a $16.5 million facility. And they're spending, I don't even know how many millions of dollars this year, building a 3rd floor and a whole separate building that's just going to be VOTEC kind of stuff, okay? So eventually it'd be great to see something like that in Helena, right? Can you imagine the demand? that would drive something like that, that would be amazing. We should pray for that. So that's the basic idea. Afterwards, if you want more information about it, I can give you that. I can give you the contact, how to get a hold of the person that's in charge of enrolling and so on. Be praying about that. So now I'm thinking, why homeschooling? Well, let me ask you a question. Last night, Paul started off and he was talking about some stuff in the news that's going on. I'm like, dude, you're stealing my introduction, you know? So let me get to that part. Have you noticed that in Morocco, I don't know how to pronounce the name of the place, Ceuta or Ceuta, something like that. It's right next to Morocco. It's a Spanish possession. It's Spain, okay, but it's right there. It's in Africa. It's not on the Iberian Peninsula. It's across the straits, and they have the population is 80,000 Spaniards, okay? 80,000 people live in this city or province, whatever you want to call it. In 2 days, they had 60,000 military-age young men jump the border and show up. So they almost doubled their population in 2 days. Now, they weren't invited, except the president or dictator or whoever he is of Spain said, oh, no, we love migrants. We're going to let them all in. And then guess what? If you invite them, they will come. We kind of figured that out a while ago, right? Thankfully, we have somebody in there that's disinviting people right now. So 60,000 showed up. You know what the answer was? Well, we're going to put a buoy out there, and so then they can't swim under the buoy. They can't swim over the buoy. They can't cut a line and separate the buoy and come. Somebody, public education, I guess. Any rate, I don't want to slam the public schools though. So there are Christians from this church that are working in the public schools. Or do we have any of them here today? If you're working, yeah, so please stand for a second. I know it's painful. Yeah, come on. Teaching, working in administration, in any way, shape, or form. Anybody else, or has? Yeah, I'm going to get to that. You're jumping the gun on me. Okay, so these people need your prayer. They are our missionaries to the public schools, okay? And that's the system that the world has built, okay? They're our missionaries into there, okay? Now, if you are homeschooling or have homeschooled, please stand. If you're homeschooling, well, so you do double duty, all right. Homeschooling all right. Now, if you're a young parent, have a look at these people. These are the veterans. These are the people, thank you. These are the people that can answer your questions, that can give you advice and can help you, okay? Now, I want to point out, both groups of people were in this building. We're on the same team. I am not against the public schools. I put a lot of my time and effort into that. I just can't make it do what I wanted it to do. I can't use that model. The problem's not the curriculum. The problem is the model. That's the part that doesn't work for me. I want to see Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. That's the thing I'm concerned about. Listen, eternity is a very long time. I want to prepare a child for that. What's the way? Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except by me. So for sure, I want to make sure, and I was telling my students all the time, it's like, guys, eternity is a very long time. I don't know what use algebra is going to be 1,000,000 years from now, but if you know Jesus, that's going to be of value 1,000,000 years from now. So, So we have this invasion going on, right? Have you noticed also that there's a lot of communists, or as they like to call themselves, Democratic Socialists of America, getting elected to office in America right now? There's like 129 of them that are in office right now at the federal, state, and local level, and I'm sure that's way undercounted, okay? There's a lot of them that aren't identifying, but they're openly telling us now, openly, this is what we want to do. We want to eradicate the presidency, we want to eradicate the Senate, we want to stack the Supreme Court, we want to do away with borders, we want to do away with law enforcement, with prisons, and all this. We're going to build this communist utopia here. Apparently never took any history classes, okay? Why are they being so openly bold about it? Because they think that they have critical mass. You don't need to take over everything, you just need critical mass. They have that. And have you noticed who their partners are? The Muslims. The Muslims and the communists are working together. What are they trying to do? Well, it's not to give you Taco Tuesday, okay? It's not to make our lives better. It's to take over. They're openly saying it. That's the goal. I don't know about you, but that concerns me that they're out in the open. But I have some good news for you. The church is growing in China. The church is growing in Africa. The church is growing in Iran. In 1979, there were 500 Christians in Iran. Today, there's between 800,000 and 2 million, and there's probably more than that. They're growing. Now the bad news. In Europe and America, it's going down. The church numbers are going down, down, down. Okay? And why is that? What in the world is going on? Western civilization is under attack. Western civilization is under attack. Let's read Psalm 11. In the Lord I put my trust. How can you say to my soul, flee as a bird to your mountain? For look, the wicked, the communists, the Muslims, the Islamists, they bend their bow. They make ready their arrow on the string that they may shoot secretly at the upright in heart. If the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. His eyes behold. Nothing escapes his notice. Nothing. His eyelids test the sons of men. The Lord tests the righteous, but the wicked and the one who loves violence, his soul hates. Upon the wicked he will rain coals, fire and brimstone, and a burning wind shall be the portion of their cup. For the Lord is righteous. He loves righteousness. His countenance beholds the upright. Where are you going to learn that? Are they going to teach that in public school? I would say that they don't have time to teach it in private school. They don't have time. The curriculum is so overwhelming. A lot of Christian schools, they do chapel for 1 hour, 1 day a week. And not even an hour. Let's look at verse 3 again. If the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? That's the $64,000 question right there. If the foundations are destroyed. Jesus said something about foundations, did he not? He said, if you build on a shaky foundation, when the storm comes, what's going to happen? What are we seeing? So to me, I look at that and I say, well, we need to look at the foundation. Well, what is the foundation? I would say to you that the foundation is the family. And I'm not the only one that thought this. I went looking for one quote, right? I just want one quote about the family being the foundation. Here's what I found. The idea that the family is the foundation of society is not attributed to just one person. Rather, it's a foundational concept. See that? Foundation? Foundational concept found across philosophical, religious, and legal history. This is an old idea. Why is it an old idea? Because, duh, it's obvious. Cicero said in De Officiis, the Roman philosopher explicitly framed the family as the bedrock of the state, calling marriage and the household the foundation of the city and, as it were, the nursery of the republic. He said that, well, he lived between 106 and 43 BC. Aristotle, perhaps you've heard of him. In politics, Aristotle said that human political organization evolves naturally from the basic unit of the household. He argued that families form villages and villages combine to form the city-state. Aristotle lived between 384 and 322 BC. Now he said that families form villages. Now somebody wrote a book a while back that says it takes a village to raise a child, okay? I disagree with that. I think it takes a village to raise an idiot. And there's a village somewhere that's looking for their idiot. And if they give me a call, I'll let them know where she's living now, okay? It takes a family to raise a child. It doesn't take a village. That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem. We've been convinced to farm it out. No, no, no. Take it back. Take it back. Confucius, perhaps you've heard of him, the inventor of the fortune cookie, right? Confucian philosophy centers heavily on the family as the essential building block of societal order and government stability. Confucius taught that harmony in the state is a direct reflection of order and filial respect within the home. And filial just means parents respect children respect their parents. Pope Leo in 1891 described the family as a true society that predates the state. Sounds like he maybe read the Founding Fathers. Establishing the long-standing Catholic doctrine that the family is the vital foundational cell of society. Did you know that the UN recognizes the family as the foundation? That's pretty wild, isn't it? They did that in 1948, back when they still thought America knew something, right? World War II had just ended. We still were the good guys. Not so much today, but 1948, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the concept was codified into international law under Article 16.3 of the UDHR, which states, the family is the natural and fundamental group unit of society and is entitled to protection by society and the state. 1948. You know what else happened in 1948? Israel became a nation in a day. A lot of things happened in 1948. If you want an interesting history study, go look at what happened in 1948. Will Durant, the American historian, summarized the perspective succinctly. The family has been the ultimate foundation of every civilization known to history. Ronald Reagan, one of my favorites, said that the family is the basic unit of our society, the heart of our free democracy. Have you noticed we've been losing our freedoms? You know why we're losing our freedoms? I would say there's a direct draw line between the loss of our freedoms and the decline of the family. There's a direct line. Correlation does not equal causation, but it might tell you something's going on. You know who else thinks that the family is really important? Communism. I have here a copy. You can get this online. If you're interested, I can send you the link. This is read, 1963 was read into the congressional record. Okay, it's from a book written in 1958 about the Communist Party and their goals for America. It's got 45 different ones. Let me read you a couple. Number 15, capture one or both of the political parties in the United States. 17, get control of the schools. Use them as a transmission belts for socialism and current communist propaganda. You notice that socialism and communism, they're connected there. It's two sides of the same coin. Soften the curriculum, get control of teachers' associations, put the party line in textbooks. Like I said, all of my professors were openly Marxist. I remember one time talking to the head librarian of the Bozeman Public Schools about communism and socialism, and he said, well, you know, a little socialism never hurt anybody. And I'm like, dude, you're a librarian. Don't you read books? Socialism has hurt a lot of people. Continue discredit, number 22, continue discrediting American culture. 23, control art critics and directors of art museums. Did you notice what President Trump did to the Smithsonian lately? He put some signs on the sidewalk out front that said, beware, you're about to enter the woke propaganda zone. He can't replace the director of the museum, but he owns the sidewalk. That's awesome. 27, infiltrate the churches. Think they've been working on that? 28, eliminate prayer or any phrase of religious expression in the schools on the ground that it violates the principle of separation of church and state. We've heard that before. 29, discredit the American Constitution. That's big going on right now, big time. Discredit the American Founding Fathers is number 30, going on big time. 31, belittle all forms of American culture. 32, support any socialist movement to give centralized control over any part of the culture. Education, social agencies, welfare programs, mental health clinics, etc., etc. All that looks to me like they've already done it. Here's the one I'm most interested in, two of them. 40, discredit the family as an institution. Encourage promiscuity and easy divorce. 41, emphasize the need to raise children away from the negative influence of parents. Attribute prejudices, mental blocks, and retardation of children to the suppressive influence of parents. Blech. That makes me sick to my stomach. But that's exactly where we're at. Just last week or the week before, there was a story that went viral about these two podcasters discussing homeschooling. I don't know if anybody caught it. You can find it online easy enough. I'm just warning you right now, there's a lot of cussing in it, a lot of F-bombs. They don't have a very high opinion of homeschoolers. Let me read you a few morsels, okay? Welsh accused parents who choose to homeschool of attempting to project a script onto their kids and claimed they were incapable of critical thinking. This is trickle-down stupidity. This is MAGA on steroids. This is MAHA. This is tradwife. This is unvaxxed and unjacked and all that expletive. This is the worst, worst, worst. It seems to me like it's about more than homeschool. It's a huge problem. I can't stand these people. But again, it's a pretty big red flag when somebody tells you, when you're like, what's their deal? They seem kind of awful. And they say, I was homeschooled. you're like, yeah, I knew. It just seems such a selfish thing for parents to do. There was a 25-year public high school teacher wrote a response that's really good. Let me read you a few pieces of that. For decades, sociologists and experts have encouraged parents to become more involved in their children's lives. In schools, we ask them to volunteer in classrooms, attend conferences, help with homework, coach youth sports, read before bed, eat dinner together, remain actively engaged in their child's development. Every educational study worth reading points in the same direction. Children flourish when parents are invested. Yet somehow, we've arrived at a cultural moment where one of the strongest objections to homeschooling is that parents might actually spend too much time with the children they brought into the world. That's the main argument. It's like, and have you noticed, I'm old enough to remember when there was no kindergarten. I remember when kindergarten was first introduced where I grew up. A lot of you didn't go to kindergarten because it didn't exist. But now it's just assumed, right? You know what they want to do now? They want to get them when they're 3 years old. In some countries, it's mandatory to get them when they're 3 years old, okay? Why is that? Because they realize that you have such an influence on them between when they're born until they're 5 years old that it's a little too hard to turn them. They want to get them earlier. It's not because they want to teach them how to read, okay? When a culture begins treating a mother's desire to spend her days with her children or a father's determination to shape his son's character firsthand as evidence of dysfunction rather than devotion, it has lost sight of something far more fundamental than educational philosophy. It is forgotten that the family is not an obstacle to a child's flourishing. Under God's design, it's the place where flourishing is meant to begin. How are we going to pass on our faith? How do we pass on our faith? This year, I'm teaching biblical worldview. I'm going to teach systematic theology. What do we believe? Where did it come from? Why do we believe it? So that when they get older, they don't depart. They need to know what we believe and why we believe it and where does it come from. So that when the pressure hits them and the shaking comes, they have that foundation and they can respond. And they won't fall away. They won't depart the faith. I wasn't raised in the church, so I saw the value of it right away. There's a danger raising children in the church and not building that in. Build that pressure in. Pressure test their faith as they're growing up so that when they're older, it can take a beating. Research consistently shows that families are the single most important factor in whether children adopt and maintain faith into adulthood. The single most important factor. Transmission from parents to children is to remain viable. Efforts must focus on equipping both families and the church with practical tools and guidance for intergenerational faith formation. We don't need so many more programs as we need to get behind the family and help them be what God has called them to be. And that is my intent. I don't know how much longer I have left on this earth, but I know one thing. I'm going to spend the rest of my time doing that. That's what I'm going to do. If the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? They can homeschool. If the family's under attack, what can the righteous do? They can support the family. So what I'm going to do this year in the homeschool co-op is I'm going to support the family by providing some classes for those who need it. And more than that, as Paul mentioned, I'm going to work on pulling together resources to help families learn how to homeschool. It's not that hard. I want to help you do it. That's what we need to do. We should be helping families homeschool. We should be working on building the foundation, rebuilding the foundation. If we want to take back society, we're going to take it back starting in the family and working out. You're not going to be able to do it. You can take over the schools. They've got a 120-year head start. You got to take it back. You got to take it back at the family level. That's where it needs to happen. They don't have time in the school day to do a lot of the teaching that needs to happen. What do kids need to know? Well, first of all, I said they need self-discipline, right? And the only way they get that is by getting discipline first. And then eventually you peel away the discipline once they are able to carry it themselves, right? You don't lay a 50-pound pack on a 5-year-old and say, let's go for a 20-mile hike. You don't do that. They need to learn how to read. Pepperdine University, one of the premier universities in the California university system, the professors have to read to their students. And the professor says it's not even an inability to critically think, it's an inability to read sentences. I have to read things aloud because there's no way anyone read it the night before. When she reads passages in classes with the students, there's so much they can't even process about the very words that are on the page. They don't, when I was in school a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, we read whole books. I had to read 3 or 4 a year. They don't do that anymore. They read passages, they read parts, or they'll read a little thin one. And the stuff that they choose to read is not very good. Did you hear about The Odyssey, the movie that was just made, and the actress who was cast to play Helen of Troy? She got her Master of Fine Arts from Yale. She'd never heard of The Odyssey. She got a Master in Fine Arts, and she never heard about one of the key books in the Western canon. She never even heard of it. The man who does not read books has no advantage over the man who cannot read them. That's what Mark Twain said. You need to have time for reading. There's no time for writing. About 68% of those who start at 2-year public institutions and 40% at 4-year schools have to take remedial writing, at least one class. Average math and reading scores are just the money goes up and the scores go down. Yeah. That's what happens. Okay? Because money's not the problem. Money's not the problem. In math, there's no time. There's no time. Math teaches you how to think logically, how to take a complex problem and break it down into bits and pieces that can be solved, and then you arrive at the answer. It disciplines the mind. It teaches you how to think. That's the reason to teach math. And that's why everybody has to do it, even those who don't want to. Okay? What look for rulers that men do not think? You know who said that? Adolf Hitler. If the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? They can homeschool. They can focus on the family. Dr. Dobson knew what he was talking about. We need to focus on the family. I've gone over, my apologies, but I care about this a lot. And so, Lord, I thank you so much for your family. Lord, you've invited us. Jesus, you said that we could be the children of God. You invite us. You came to repair the breach, to rebuild the foundation, to reestablish and to heal and make whole the family of God. And there's nobody going to stand in your way, Lord. It's going to happen. I've read the end of the book. I know that we're going to be in our Father's house with you forever. Lord, thank you so much for making that possible. And Lord, however much time I have left, I pray that you would spend me here on this task, building the family, helping families train up their children in the way they should go, so that when they are old, they will not depart from you. You are the way, you are the truth, you are the life. Thank you for giving us the life, Lord. And now, Lord, walk it out in us and through us today and every day. And may your blessing be upon your family. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you. If you want information, come see me. I got a contact for you.